In the past week, over 4,000 acres has burned across Georgia as we track increasing threats of wildfires across our state. Joining me now to talk about all of this is Wendy Burnett, the Public Relations Director for the Georgia Forestry Commission. And Wendy, it has been a busy couple of days for the Georgia Forestry Commission. What can you tell me about the latest that's transpired over the weekend?
It has been very busy. Saturday, we had a red flag warning issued by the National Weather Service. And that was indeed our busiest day. Just on Saturday alone, we had 137 wildfires across the state that burned about 2,400 acres. So extremely active. As of now, we've been downgraded to high fire danger. So we're just one level below the red flag warning. So conditions are still ripe for wildfires. We're still having wildfires. So we still need to be vigilant and make sure that we're doing what we can to prevent wildfires.
And when you get reports in, maybe somebody calls 911 and say, hey, I see a brush fire breaking out. What is the goal of the first on scene to try to contain that? What tactics do they use?
We're so incredibly proud of all of our wildland firefighters. They attack these fires aggressively. So our goal is to get to the fires as soon as possible with our equipment. We use bulldozers and tractors to plow fire lines, fire breaks around the fire. Once you get a complete loop around the fire, it's considered contained, and we try to keep the fire contained within those lines. So that's what we do. Our guys have done a fantastic job. Like I said, they've been really aggressive in their tactics and trying to keep these fires that we're having as low in acreage as possible, and they've just done outstanding.
And a lot of those, as you mentioned, have been very low in acreage. We've been watching the fire response map online, popping up new ones throughout the weekend. A lot of these have been, less than an acre in size, but then there's a couple of slightly larger ones. Can you tell me about what you've been tracking outside of Macon in central Georgia, and also the one up in Walker County as well?
So the one in Twiggs County, which is just outside of Macon, was actually started by a spark from a train that was going by. Train did nothing wrong, just happened to shoot a spark out when it was going along the tracks. And the grass that it went into was just unfortunately very dry, as much of the state is. And so it created a spark and burned for a little while before it was reported, before we knew that it was burning. So that's why that one got a little bigger. We have some good lines around it now, and our crews remain there just to make sure that it stays within the lines. I think we have it about 80% contained, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around in there. So they've made significant progress. That fire did grow pretty large, though, in the meantime. So that's that one. And then the other fire, I believe, is burning mostly on Forest Service lands, so national forest lands. We are helping our friends at the U.S. Forest Service with that fire as much as we can, but I don't have all the details on that one.
And that was the one up in Walker County. We had a web camera that we had access to from the emergency manager up there, and we were watching that on Friday, some of that fire burning in the wildlands. Let me ask you this now. I mean, things have been very dry. It's been about 2 weeks since we've had any rain. We know there's some coming, but between now and Tuesday night, what's the biggest challenge for more of these wildland fires that might spark and try to grow? What do you think is the biggest weather element that's kind of working against you?
Well, you mentioned that how dry it is. It's been a while since we've had significant rain. The two elements that are adding to the drought conditions, or the dry conditions, are low relative humidity, which is not something we're accustomed to here in Georgia. We're accustomed to having really, really humid weather, but we're having low relative humidity, 30%, even 20% and below. And then we're having some gusty winds. So you get those sparks that are thrown into dry vegetation, and then the wind picks it up, and then it spreads into a wildfire very quickly. So that's what we're up against. That's what we're fighting. We're looking forward to the front coming in. We're hoping to get a little bit of a break. But if you look at the National Weather Service forecast for fire danger, we're anticipating a very busy March. We're anticipating higher than normal fire activity through the month of March, pretty much throughout the whole state. So we're up to the task, but that's what we're preparing for.
So more of these fronts coming in and dry air behind it. And I know we're getting some rain on Wednesday, but the ground is still very dry, as you mentioned.
Right, right. So we're looking for we expect to get a pause. That's what we're looking for, a pause in activity when that front comes in on Wednesday, Tuesday night, Wednesday. So we're going to use that to rest our folks, repair our equipment, and get ready to go back at it once things start drying out again.
Wendy, when we have some of these larger fires that might be over, say, 5 acres, okay, I know that's very small in the world of wildland firefighting, but you know, we really don't want them getting any bigger. What should people know about different counties collaborating with the Georgia Forestry Commission? How does that kind of ballet dance work?
Anytime a structure is involved, if there is a fire burning near a community with homes, or even just a single solitude home in a rural area, we work very closely with our structural firefighter friends in that local area. They will try to secure the structures and the homes to make sure that they're undamaged, while we again work to get containment lines around the perimeter of the fire to keep it contained. So we work very closely with county fire departments, county and city fire departments, to make sure as few structures as possible are burned or affected during wildfires.
And those wildland firefighters, that's not just a typical, firefighter that's dealing with house fires. They're trained in this. How many of those wildland firefighters have been working throughout the last several days, the last week? And how many are kind of working round the clock to contain some of these larger fires?
So we have, I'm guessing here, I'll have to get you the actual number, but around a little fewer than 400 wildland firefighters throughout the state of Georgia, and they've all been working pretty consistently. So if we have a county that's not having a lot of fire activity, which we don't have very many of those, but we absolutely can move people around the state to go to those areas that are having really, really high numbers and a lot of activity. So all of our folks are working very hard, lots of boots on the ground. I don't think we have anybody on vacation for the next couple of weeks anyway. So we're all working around the clock, making sure to keep Georgians safe and hopefully the home safe, and our forest resources, of course.
And Wendy, let me close with this last question. I know our annual burn ban doesn't start until May, but what should people know? You said the risk all of March is going to stay elevated for more fires. What should people know moving forward about ways to make sure that they do not start a new fire?
Have patience. If you're cleaning up your yard and you have a pile of leaves or debris that you need to burn, be sure to be vigilant. Check the fire weather. If it looks like it's not a good day to burn, if there's a lot of wind, if it feels like the humidity's a little low, or if you know that it hasn't rained in a while, those leaves and those limbs are going to be there in April when we're going to get a lot more rain, hopefully. So just be patient and be vigilant and do your part. Our friend Smokey Bear taught us when we were children, right, that only you can prevent wildfires. Humans are the #1 cause of wildfires, not just here in Georgia, but throughout the nation. So do your part, be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of anything that you do that might create that spark that might unfortunately land in some dry vegetation and start a wildfire. So just do your best to do your part, help us prevent wildfires. Those are the easiest ones for us to put out, the ones that never start, right?
Thank you so much, Wendy. Perfect advice for people. Just wait a little bit longer until things get a lot more humid outside, more moisture as well. But right now, that fire danger is still in that critical phase before we track this rain in. And then, as you mentioned, that's a little brief pause before fire danger ramps back up again. Thank you so much, Wendy, with the Georgia Forestry Commission, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.